Welcome. My name is Faisal Al-Jabouri, and I am the Chief External Affairs Officer at RAICES, the largest provider of legal and social services paired with advocacy support for the immigrant, refugee, and asylum-seeking people and families in Texas. Welcome to today's conversation about A24's latest film, Problemista, a surreal adventure that reveals the absurd and treacherous U.S. immigration system through humor and satire. At RAICES, we believe that the law is downstream from culture. What that means is that to see systemic change in immigration law and practices, we need a culture shift that can only come from powerful storytelling that elevates immigration narratives. We are grateful to A24, the film and television studio behind Minari, Past Lives, Euphoria, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and so much more for our longstanding partnership. They are at the forefront of creating masterful storytelling about the diverse human experience, including stories lived and told by people intimately familiar with navigating the immigration system, two of whom are joining us here today. I'm pleased to welcome writer, director, and star of Problemista, Julio Torres, and his co-star Laith Nakli ahead of this film's March 22nd nationwide release. It's already in select markets across the country. And I'm excited to discuss how their own immigration journeys informed their work in the film and how uplifting the voices of those who are most impacted by our immigration system can change the hearts and minds of the American people. Julio Torres from El Salvador is known for his work on Saturday Night Live, for which he received 4 Emmy nominations. He can be seen in both seasons of his Peabody and GLAAD award-winning HBO series Los Espookies, which he co-created with Fred Armisen and Ana Fabrega. Last year, Julio released his first picture book, I Want to Be a Vase, from Simon & Schuster. And his 6-episode HBO series Phantasmas, which he wrote, directed, and produced, is in post-production currently. Julio is in conversation today with Laith Nakli, a British-born Syrian actor and writer featured in Problemista. Laith graduated from the prestigious William Esper Studio professional actor training program and made his stage debut in War at the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater Company, where he also had the world premiere of his first play, Sheshiak. He is one of the regular characters in the Hulu series Rami, a favorite of mine, and in the Marvel series Ms. Marvel. Julio, Laith, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us. And we're going to start off today to set the stage for everyone by using a clip that I asked permission from A24 to use. I stayed with me since the South by Southwest premiere of this film a year ago. And I'm so glad that it's finally getting rolled out across the country so that moviegoers can see it nationwide. But this clip in particular, why we're going to start off our conversation with it, is because to me, it perfectly encapsulates the maddening bureaucracy of the U.S. immigration system. So let's watch it.
The rules of the game are as follows. First, he must find a sponsor for a work visa. Then, he must submit it by paying application and lawyer fees, totaling up to around $6,000. And only then is Alejandro allowed to earn money. Money that he needs so he can submit his application to, well, earn money. And he must do it before the fall of the last grain of sand. The maze is impossible to navigate, unless, of course, he's willing to bend the rules.
Yeah, so it's just the catch-22 of being in the immigration system, right? And how to get, how one stage to get to the next stage, but you really can't because there's this other piece here. And unless you find a loophole there. And how did that imagery come to you, Julio?
Well, through feeling, really. It's like the feeling of feeling trapped in a system that doesn't make sense. and just being trapped in bureaucracy that just never changes, that you can only win if you subvert it in some way. That feeling came first, and then uh, I think that this visual was the most apt way I could find to uh, showcase that feeling. And yeah, it's I was very interested in showing how something feels, and it's and I think that this sort of like the feeling of being trapped in bureaucracy in a system that doesn't make sense. I don't think it's exclusive to immigration, but it is certainly a big part of the immigration is actually the villain of the story is the broken system.
It's a great way to put it. And so to contextualize for everyone, this is based upon your own immigration journey, correct?
Yes, yeah. So I very much like the character in the movie had to go from a student visa to a work visa, and on paper that's like, oh, okay, so the student graduates, and then because the student has graduated, the student gets a job, they get sponsored, and then they stay here. But in reality, that is a maddening odyssey full of like catch-22s, where the one that's illustrated in this clip that you showed is that you're supposed to pay for this very expensive paperwork, but you're not allowed to work until the paperwork comes through. So so this happens, right? And it's sort of a system that is it feels designed to discourage people who don't have a lot of money from continuing, because if you're graduating from college and throwing thousands of dollars to this problem isn't much of an issue, then that's a very small part of the immigrant population.
For sure. I often say that for anyone that's arguing against any concept of immigration, of increased immigration, or of even the conversation around open borders, is that open borders already exist for those who have the financial means, right?
You can buy your way into most things in this world, and it's mandating, because I have been paying taxes in the U.S. since I was a student. So the idea that if I don't have enough money to pay for my visa, I'm not going to be someone who contributes is crazy. And mind you, it's what we're asking for is the opportunity to work.
For sure. Laith, what drew you to be a part of this film? What made you want to engage with it and to use it also as a platform, as as we were speaking about earlier, one-to-one, is that to use it as a platform to share a little bit more about your own immigration narrative?
I mean, I love the script. Of course, I love the script. And I completely forgot about it. I remember I auditioned. When people look at me and they see the roles that I play, they see my look. They don't go, "Oh, lawyer." They don't go. So, and coincidentally, I literally auditioned for like 4 lawyers within a month, and then it wasn't until 2-3 months later I get a call. I said, "Oh yeah, you got offered this job that I'm like, which one? The lawyer one?" I'm like, "Yeah, which lawyer?" There's only one lawyer I liked out of all of them. And luckily it was the right one. It was the one that I loved. And I love the script, and I thought it was just so ironic that, because technically, and if you want to get into it, we can technically, even though I am in admin closure, I think, people know immigration will know that term. I am in deportation proceedings. So I thought I found it just so ironic that here I am. I'm going to play an immigration lawyer in a film about a kid who's, trying to, fight the possibility of getting deported. So I thought there was just like something in there, and then little did I know that I would meet Julio, and he's a wonderful person, and he is empathetic and listen to my story, because I've met so many other people that wouldn't care, and he listened to my story, he related to it, and he's tagging me along and helping me get my story up.
And you touched on an interesting point about that Julio is one of the few that cared, right? Like, and that so many others wouldn't. And there's something, Julio, that you've said in a recent interview that really stuck with me, is that we are trained to frankly pixelate displaced people.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of it feels like we as a society are trained to see someone going through a hard time and not engaged out of some sort of form of self-preservation, or we are told that if we are too nice, then society falls apart. And I really think that there is something that is seen extremely dangerous about empathy, especially to capitalism, because it's like, oh, whoa, if we do this favor for this person, then society is gonna fall apart. And I don't know, I've always had a hard time with that, and I feel those moments stay with me, where like, I mean, isn't it bizarre to like be at a restaurant and then have a displaced person come ask for money, have the table go quiet for a little bit till the person either gets money or doesn't get money, and then walks away, and then you just sort of resume the conversation as if nothing has happened, as if this person was a ghost or an apparition. And it is because we as a society keep being like trained to not care too much about strangers, which is really heartbreaking when you're in a position of needing help, when you're in a position of needing help, of needing to be seen. It's like I think it behooves us to do what we can to help those that we can help, and no one person has the absolute magic button to fix somebody else's life, though it sounds like the president is very close to having a button that could vary life with a presidential pardon. But with the exception of someone as powerful as the US president, we should just like do what we can to help other people. I had this this person in an apartment that I lived by. He was there every day, and he would just like ask for $1, and then I like, someone was like, "Whoa, you can't give him $1 every day," and I was like, "Actually, I can." Actually, no, I can. I'm pretty sure I can.
And yet we have, I think that example of being at a restaurant, right? I think hits perfectly, because you're right. All of a sudden, sort of, we're trained to kind of almost stop time for a second. Like, the person just sort of disappears, and then we move on without a beat. And what that speaks to is the indignities that we perpetuate, and the dehumanization that we perpetuate in scenarios where something is quote unquote uncomfortable. And I would say part of that.
I think that there's a level of like, I think that there is an uncomfortable level of guilt that people are allergic to when it comes to these discomforts. That if you acknowledge someone that has less, you have to acknowledge that you have more. And that, I think, makes a lot of people uncomfortable. I think that that's just the reality of life. Like we don't all have the same, and we shouldn't be so allergic to confronting that.
And Laith, you were saying that how you're technically in removal proceedings, although, hopefully there will be a magic button. And you haven't really shared this, from my understanding. Is that why?
Well, I mean, there so many different stages of reasons why I stay private with it. In the beginning, it was shame because, like, oh, I did something bad. I was in the 90s, I was a bodybuilder and I was involved. I was a minor participant in this steroid case. Then I was arrested, and I even though the judge thought it was a stupid case, I got sentenced to 3 years probation, did my probation and everything. But there was so much shame. There was so much shame that I can't talk about it because I cannot talk about that I was arrested. So that was the first stage, was shame. And then after that, then you get, you just feel like there's a huge, like, when people don't know my story, I'm more accepted. When people just assume I'm American, I'm part of this system, I felt more accepted. Or it could be an illusion, but that's how I felt. So I just kept it to myself, and I didn't want people to, oh, I'm going to stay away from him. He's got some issues. He's dealing with some legal issues. He's dealing with problems. So I kept it. But then, there was a point, I don't remember when, then I felt like, I started telling more people who are close to me, who didn't know. And then I started feeling like, and now I'm at a point where very open about it. Yes, I made a mistake. I broke the law and I paid the price for it. And I've been doing everything right ever since. I've been following that, straight line. And everyone makes mistake. I had a friend of mine who was a captain in the NYPD. He said, Laith, everyone in this world has at least done one thing where if they were caught, if they were the wrong place, wrong time, they would have been in more trouble than you ever were in. So that did not define me. And when I allowed myself to not be defined by what I did, I felt more free. And also at the same time, I was terrified. I'm terrified of authority in general. I grew up in Syria and have many stories there. So I'm terrified. I was terrified of saying something wrong or pissing someone off who could hurt me. So that's another thing too, that I was so afraid of. But now I've done nothing. I have, a presidential pardon that's actually, like, in a good place right now. It's been reviewed, and hopefully that will clear the, the path to citizenship. And so we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and what this shame that Laith is talking about, I think it's like also connected to this idea that this rhetoric, frankly, even coming from the left, that the immigration in the US is supposed to be saved for, like, the best of the best, and that people have to be absolutely exceptional in order to live a life with dignity here, and that exceptional is not just in terms of, like, ability and talent. It's like moral purity. And this idea that only saints should be allowed to be here, and it's just really, that's a very unfair and very claustrophobic place to put people in, people who make mistakes and then fix them. And then it's like, in Laith's case, it's like, if he were American, this would never come up. Like in the 90s, that something happened in the 90s. Like, no, you'd probably never think about it. But because this system is so unforgiving, there's just no moving away from it, which is, I think that pressure is just completely unfair. I also the idea of walking into any room with extra baggage with like an anchor around you was also like terrifying, knowing that going into a job interview, knowing that even if I got it, then I would have to grovel for them to see if they would sponsor me, was just, yeah, it makes it hard to talk about.
Yeah.
And so why did you choose, Julio, to engage in sort of the absurd in your approach to storytelling, to be able to sort of amplify what the immigration experience is like on this, on this wider scale?
Well, I mean, the comic humor and the absurd are things that come very naturally to me. It's so far the only way I know how to tell a story. So the tone of it is just very honest to me and my experience, which, and by that I don't mean that a very grim, very gray, very sad immigration story is in any way wrong. That just happens not to be the glasses through which I see my life. And circumstance has had it where, I get to be a little bit optimistic, but and I feel like humor is a very important tool to get people to digest some of these ideas. And I really like what you said at the very beginning, where you said something about, and I'm paraphrasing, about how culture happens first, and then law catches up to it, or something to that extent. And I really, really agree with that. Just like, as a queer person, it's sort of so interesting to, like, now you go to like a pride event in any major cities and like banks are sponsoring them. And it's like, oh, so this went from persecution to it's actually financially profitable for you to connect yourself to this. Wow. In a way that I'm like, yeah, let's make that happen for immigration. Why it's like, let's make it from this like dirty thing that like hush hush that people don't talk about, to like, oh, actually, if lawmakers want to stay in power, they need to like wake up and change things.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's and I think that is the point that you were speaking to, is the law is downstream from culture, right? And so things don't change until we demand it of our elected officials. And I think what something like Problemista is doing is making immigration more relatable, because it is this big, unwieldy, messy, but by design as well. Like I always say, like, clear is kind, and therefore immigration policy is inherently unkind because it is designed to be unclear, right? Like it is putting you through. It is putting you through it, and for generations afterwards too, because I think a lot of what you also look at is a theme that comes up in this conversation, in the film, in our work at RAICES, is this theme of belonging, right? And so I think so much of what you speak to, Julio, is that it's this theme, we're constantly trying to prove that we belong.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself can be a very lonely.
Yeah. And not just like proving that we belong, and also in terms of immigration specifically, proving that we are not a threat in any way, because like, what's confusing to me is that laws are supposed to be in place to like protect people, right? It's like that is the whole idea behind having laws, is to like protect most people. I don't know who is protected by like Laith not being here. I like what, the other actors that are auditioning for these parts? Is that who we're looking like? What? Like, who is?
That's so funny. Could you imagine if that was true? Like, oh,
Yeah, they're looking after like the other guys with the beards that like want to
they call all the other guys Muhammad, Waleed. I'm sorry, man. We had to give it to him. I'm sorry. So, you know, you're going to have more competition for those international jobs.
Yeah.
You're that good, Laith. You're that good. Well, we are wrapping up. I can't believe we're towards the end of our conversation. So I want to do a little bit of a pivot. And so problemista, as I'm understanding it, it's a word that you made up, Julio, and it means someone who's attracted to small problems. Right?
Small or big, I think.
Small, big, okay.
Yeah, I define it as someone who thrives in problems or makes art out of problems. And that's because I think that immigration feels like you're tangled in so many problems that attract other problems. Because of course, if you're going through an immigration problem, that very quickly is a slippery slope into a financial problem, and those two are so intertwined, and or a career problem, and so this is sort of an homage to trying to like find yourself and find some joy in all of that.
And the ingenuity that's necessary. So are you a problemista, Julio?
Yes. Yeah. I certainly am.
Laith?
Definitely. I think everyone's a problemista in this, in this movie.
And if there was, Laith, if there was one thing that you would want to leave people with an understanding of immigration, whether the broader system or your experience within it, what would that be?
Oh man. I mean, I keep on fighting for what you love and what you believe. I mean, I've always since a kid believed in this is my place, even though when I was living in the UK, and that's why I keep on fighting, and I sacrifice so much to prove that I'm like, you know, and if one day something will change in the system where like in my case is referenced in it, then I've done something, you know, because this is a land of second chances, and we come here to get a second chance already, and then, you know, this country is wonderful. We talk about all the bad things here. Nobody talks about the great things. There's a lot of great things about America, and that's, you know, and I love it. I feel like you said, this is the first time. I don't know yet. I'm still trying to belong, but I feel like I'm very close. You know what I mean? Because I'm here, and America's great. And if you believe in something, keep fighting for it and don't give up, no matter what it is. And especially in immigration, you know, and immigration it's hard. It's like sometimes I feel like I am in serious, like who you know, who you can contact, who has more money, who can get a good lawyer, who's that, you know, it's so many things. You just gotta if you're passionate about something, fight for it, no matter what it is in life. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Julio, how about you?
Just that, you know, it don't think of immigration as a completely abstract thing that happens to people who you don't know, or people who are just like ideas of people. It's like, you know, look at the Laith here, and the real human being with real talent and real who's just been here forever and having immense contributions, and it's almost funny to like call it a pardon, because it's like you already did the thing that, you know, you had the minor offense and then you paid for it. So now what you need is for someone to go like, oh yeah, you're right, you did pay for that. It's like you the system has pardoned you already. You know, it's like you like, so it's almost like, oh, right, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you do have that piece of paper. Okay, you're good.
And so I think that's what this conversation, and that's what your film is about, Julio. It's about recentering the human in the conversation on immigration. We're so happy that you took the time to speak with us. I could spend all day speaking with you both. I had so many more questions to ask, but this was really meaningful, and I hope meaningful for our audience, and hope everyone goes out to see Problemista. Again, it's in theaters nationwide starting this Friday, March 22nd. And go check it out. Let us know how you like it. And thank you for joining us, Julio and Laith.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been lovely.
Thank you. Thank you, Faisal.